Super awkward FUN-CHIVE. You're listening to the Super Awkward FUN-CHIVE. Yeah.
Welcome to the 25th episode of the Super Awkward FUN-CHIVE with Elle, Latham, and others. And our other today would happen to be my special guest, Israeli-Palestinian foreign correspondent, Rivkah
Enton.
Yes. And introduce yourself to the podcast people.
Good afternoon, Elle. It's really a pleasure to be invited to your podcast and saying shalom and salam to all of those who are listening, and would be very happy to share, and hopefully this will be a pleasant experience for everyone and a positive experience for everyone.
It always is on the podcast, on the Super Awkward FUN-CHIVE, because we delve into issues that some podcasts dare not.
Yeah.
And then we do our jokey fun stuff. But this is going to be a little more of a real conversation that we do from time to time. And I have a very knowledgeable, tell them your experience in Israel.
Well, my experience, I served in the Israeli Defense Force for 3 years.
Let's wait for that. Hold on. That's crazy.
And actually...
Go again.
Okay. Basically, I served 3 years in the Israeli Defense Force. I grew up in Israel most of my life, in Ashkelon, which is the current city of question right now, and city of my birth, of my life, of my soul, and sharing with all peoples, no matter what faith, what religion. We are very different than the Northerners, so we have a different way of living, and languages, and culture, and food, and dance, and music, and things like that, way different. So I'm happy to be invited here today. I've also done international human rights projects in India, in collaboration with protecting the environment and protecting the people against the indigenous peoples. So I've done a lot of cooperation projects with other countries. Israel, of course, my home. India, in collaboration with the indigenous peoples of Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and also Singapore. So many other Asian countries, and world peace. I consider myself a citizen of the world.
Mm-hmm. As we all should, I believe. I'm not a nationalist myself. You guys know that. If you've heard any of my other podcasts, you know that I feel very strongly that individualism is something that we should not lose as a society. As we go forward, we are moved into different groups based on our ethnicity, our ecological background, and our religious background, and such, and like our gender. And I don't think it should be that way. I think if we all like work together towards a common goal, which would be world peace, like literally world peace, at least, not having bombs all over the place in the Middle East all the time.
100% agree with you, and also saying namaste and namaskar to my other friends that might be listening from India, Pakistan. I want everybody to know that peace starts with cooperation between people. Mm-hmm. And when you have the governments that are in control of the controlling of whether or not peace happens,
yes,
then the people who have lived together, ate together, sang together, danced together, been in a position where we coexist and we don't bother each other with our religions, and we also very much respect each other's religions. A lot of people, like one simple example is Middle Eastern people do not wear shoes in the house. It's a big thing. Also, gestures with the hands. When you're around Arabic-speaking people, it might look like they're arguing, but actually they're passionate people, so they express with their hands. And because people don't understand the culture, a lot of things get misinterpreted, like when tourists go and they haven't seen an Arab culture before, or any other culture, and they see things they don't understand, they often misinterpret meaning.
Yeah.
And that what brings conflict. And what's important is to know who you are with, learn about them.
I think that's the best remedy for fear-based misunderstanding of others.
Yes.
Based on a lot of what we are taught in school. Like, that's what happens when you stay in a group of people and you only have that little bubble of thinking, and you think the same way as everybody else. That's why diversity in thought is so important.
Of course.
And education, not hatred. So what I say is educate, don't hate. So if you have a problem with a specific religion, go talk to the person about your grievances, and then let them talk to you about their grievances with whatever you may believe or may not believe, because I think that's going to get us way further, and then find common ground. Like, that's what's important, to build relationships and to build solid foundations for understanding and coexisting in a peaceful society.
I agree with that. The problem then comes when governments have an agenda.
Exactly.
And what happens is, for them, it's lucrative financially to keep a war going on and on and on and on. And the people suffer for it.
They do. And the sanctions affect the people. People don't think about the negative impact of what's going on at the top, because they think it's all just affecting the top people, but it's not. It's affecting the civilians in whatever state they live in, whether it be like Venezuela, Iran now, or even China with the tariffs that are going on. So
well, what's really important to understand also is that the general public of a country, okay, they only know what they're told, especially in certain countries where they're not allowed to be exposed to anything outside of what their government wants them to know.
Like China.
So, yes. And what happens is that innocent civilian peoples on any side of a conflict are victims, not because people are against the people, each other.
Yes.
It's the government and the leaderships that have to stay rich. They have to be aggressive in their policies. They have to be very non-moving because of the political agenda, because of the money. They want that money to keep on flowing. And it's not really productive for world peace. World peace involves people dropping everything and saying, you know what, I want to learn about you, I want to meet you, I'll visit your country. We'll try to come to some solutions, how to take care of our environment, take care of our animals that are dying. These are things that make peace.
Right.
These are things that are productive to making what is called a peace to last the generations. And we have too many powerful people that say, I just want my money, I want my nice car, I want my mansion, I want my $1 million estate, and maybe I have 2 or 3 of them because I have kids. Maybe I have 5 of them. I mean, who needs all of that stuff?
Yes, and they're puppets themselves, and they've been manipulated as we've been manipulated. It's just an ongoing cycle of abuse from the top to the bottom.
And you notice, Elle, that it's in many countries. If you look around the world and you see how the leadership of all of these countries, and then in comparison to how the people live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really something to look at when you see so
the
many
disparity
countries.
In the wealth in India, in the Vatican, for freak's sake, like the huge Vatican. Like, I don't think if Jesus was what they purported him to be, that he would be okay with that kind of ostentatiousness.
No, because a house of, I mean, if you understand India, I'm glad you brought India up.
Yes.
Because India actually has suffered a lot in Bangladesh also, which I also work with. I'm saying namaskar to my Bangladeshis. They also, the Hindu community there, for example, have had many deities destroyed. Now, when you come with an attitude, no matter what religion, my religion is the best and everybody has to be the religion that I say, that poses a problem because people have been living thousands of years. India is a 10,000-year-old civilization, and they have not changed their way. The sun has risen as it has set, the same 10,000 years ago as it has now. In their mind, it's like an Indian proverb where they said the sun is going to rise and the sun is going to set. But at the same thing is that India doesn't go, the Hindus don't go and destroy other religions' house of worship or shrine or deity image or whatever your higher power might be. The question comes when other peoples think that it's okay, that because they want to instill their own beliefs, to destroy someone else's holy shrine, someone else's deity, someone else's, it's so unheard of and unacceptable. I've seen so much. My last trip to India especially, the Hindu community was crushed between Christian missionaries that actually were using aggression with weapons. And on the other side, you have from Bangladesh on the border a non-Hindu community, okay? I just got to a refugee camp and there were about 5 or 6 bullet holes where a mother was standing in front of the door. There was bloodstains. It was just happened. And she was clutching her child to save her child's life. And those bullets between both killed her and the baby. So that's why, like for me, if one side is aggressive, the other side responds. Then somebody's more aggressive, and then the other person is so aggressive that it becomes, like terrible. Both sides suffer.
That's true.
We, the community that watch it, that witness it, that live, these are our friends. They're some of our people. We could be very close friends and have an argument, and then at the same time make up, and then have an argument again.
Which is what we're supposed to do. As human beings, we're supposed to have that kind of relationship where it's not all, the end of the world if you don't
agree the aggression
with
on both sides of any, no matter who is the conflict is between, is too aggressive. Hindus believe in dharma. They are very patient, and they will wait a millennia for something to happen before they will be violent. And that is what they teach. That's the seva, their service. And basically, we can really learn from a lot of different philosophies from around the world to try to don't be so quick to get angry. Slow down a little bit and calculate how many people need to die before you're willing to work for the peace.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes as much time as possible, you got to be willing to do it.
Yeah. It's a process. So a lot of people don't really know exactly what's going on with Israel and Palestine. So we see a lot of combating media sources with different headlines. You'll see like the West usually has kind of like diminished some of the war crimes that have gone on the Israeli side in regard to like the prime minister and what is happening with him and his corruption as well, and what kind of tactics they use in the IDF at times and how they have purported things to be and then doesn't really go that way, but it's not all the way the other way either. And that's what I've noticed, is that there's a lot of blame going on both sides towards the other side. True. And it's really hard for some people to get out of that and find what's really going on. So what would you tell someone who wanted to know kind of the truth about what's going on the ground? Would you tell them to like visit Israel and Gaza and see for themselves, or would you say there's a newswire service that's really good that they could maybe follow?
Well, there isn't a newswire, okay? You have to listen and read and understand multiple newswires. Definitely visit, not only just to see what's going on between a conflict, but visit to enjoy your time. Mm-hmm. But understand that a lot of medias put their own slant on what their side is, okay? If you're going to be an educated person and understand the media, you're going to listen to your side, their side, and all around you side. Because you might hear a report from different sources that talk about little different pieces of the puzzle, and that way you put the whole pieces of the puzzle together.
That's what I've learned to do myself. Like when like Reuters, for example, I'll go to Reuters and I'll see what they say, and I'll see what New York Times says, and I'll see what like CNN says, or like Al Jazeera, and then I'll see what RT says, and then I'll see like what was the one I was just thinking about, like I don't remember the name of it, but there's a Middle Eastern news outlet, Masdar, I don't know, mm-hmm. but and Lebanon sources as well, and I'll kind of just piece everything together. And it's sad that we have to do that in society, but you have to realize that these countries all have propaganda outlets.
Yes, and stuff does not get reported. You have to remember there's a lot of injuries and a lot of things that are when they call and they say, look, this happened in my community, on both sides, on either side. Yes. The numbers that come out, don't you ever see their numbers, and they compare them, and they're always different. They're always not connected, because there's a lot of incidences that are isolated incidences, mm-hmm. and then it gets grouped into, one powerful person did this. Okay. Right. How do you know that?
Yeah.
They
have a narrative.
Israelis will tell you that you have to be in the country to know the people, to know the culture, to know the happiness, the sorrow, and what's in between. And the what's in between is very, very, very much neglected. And we sit in front of our TVs and we listen to our radio, and everybody says, well, I watch this media source. Yeah. It's the gospel, and nothing else, matters. People will say, oh, okay, you're Israeli. Do you listen to other sides? I say, of course. I listen to world sides. I listen to sides that are actually looking in from the outside. I look at the sides that are inside looking inside.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, you need to be, for you to get the best experience, of course you have to visit. Of course you have to be inside. And you need to really have those experiences, and don't delegitimize someone's suffering.
Yes.
And that's what happens a lot too. Oh, so what? That person got killed there on that side.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
I cry every time I hear on any side. I was a medic. I had to go and take care of both sides. And it didn't matter, but it didn't matter to me. It's a human life. I don't care. The philosophy is save the life, preserve the life. I was raised that way. I was raised in a multi-community of Hebrew and Arabic-speaking peoples, Druze-speaking peoples. They have their own dialects, different dialects of languages, and cultural respect. Ashkelon, probably there were quite a few rockets that came in and hit homes and also killed many people. 4 were killed. Their families are affected. But there were also people killed on the other side. You have to cry for them, not only for yourself, because that's not in my lifetime will I believe that that is the intention of the divine. It's not. In fact, the divine probably said, why did I create you if you're just going to kill each other? What is the purpose? That's a question I always ask. What is the purpose? Why were we created if we're going to be killing each other all the time? Why were the animals created if we're just going to destroy them? Why was the land created if we're just going to pollute it and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
See, we're talking about whose fault is it. We need to start working. And like you started off with the blog, you mentioned, podcast, you mentioned, what do we do to work for peace? It starts with the people. We have to work. And we're not working hard enough. You got to open the mind, and you got to say, you know what, this whole aggressive policy, it's just killing people on both sides. Nothing is getting done, and we're staying at the same standstill. Nobody is having a job or a home or a dignified life, and we're paying for it. Why we have to pay such high, extravagant payment? Why within your own regime that if you don't, that they'll kill you and your family? Okay? Just know that in Palestine, there are communities that are not Muslim, that live in Palestinian world, that are in fear, and they have to do what the jihadis say.
Yeah.
Okay? So there are people in Israel, okay, that basically have to listen to what their leaders say. Otherwise, there is aggression. So both sides have it.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be truthful, it wouldn't be honest if we said, oh, it's only the Arabs. No.
It wouldn't.
It's everyone. And I didn't even want to hold a weapon when I was in the service. It took forever for me to even, I got in trouble. Basically, you either do this because this is what you got to do. I'm a medic, I'm a healer. I don't want to do this. So you guys, when I go and I will do my job, you do it because I'm going to save the life. That's the number one priority for me. And basically, I'm not going to badmouth anyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find a way to work. And I work very hard, even to this day. I travel to different countries. I do a lot of projects. that have nothing to do with my religion, my culture, my people. Okay? But it's everything to do with me.
Right.
It's everything to do with me.
So, we just had an election in Israel.
I know
Sort
you're
of.
going to talk to me. I knew you were going to talk to me
Sort
about
of.
it. Yes.
So I want to get into that a little bit because there's a lot of talk about election meddling in the U.S. and with Russia and all of that whole conspiracy theory. But people don't notice that there are other countries that have had way bigger ties to, not the countries themselves, but their leaders have had ties to the President of the United States. Not just this one, but the one last time and before that. But like that's an ongoing thing. And Israel just happens to be the one with Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been, cuddling up to everybody since the beginning of his reign, I think. So just a little bit about that, how that election went on in your eyes and how you feel about what's happening with the election meddling kind of story and everything and the hypocrisy of it.
Well, the thing is this, okay? The Israeli political system is that you vote for a coalition and the coalition votes for the person. Okay, first of all. So basically, what happens year after year in Israel is when there is an escalated situation, everybody talks about the favorite word, security. Okay, security, right?
Right. They do that here too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. How long will you have security and how many years until your people who cannot get jobs in certain areas that are living very high cost of living cannot? This is where we go back to the government and we say the government has an agenda. So they re-elect, and the citizens every year after year vote again and again, okay? Basically, if you're voting for Likud, for example, okay, you're voting for a very aggressive policy in Israel, okay? If you're voting for money to be predominantly funneled for war, you're going to vote Likud. If you are a person who is inside and does not look outside, you're going to say, I'm scared, I better vote for Likud because if I don't, then I won't have the security, which is false, okay? There are other Israeli parties that focus on the people, that focus on peace building, that focus on, there's many parties in Israel, okay? It's not just Likud, okay? Just to make everybody understand.
Yeah.
And the smart voter is going to vote for the people. The voter that's going to vote for the war could end up dead or be responsible for others dead. So when you make that selection on what you're going to vote for, you have to keep that in your mind, what your feelings are. Now, if anybody says, well, look what happened to you. Yes, my brother was killed by the community of his best friend. His best friend was Palestinian. And the best friend basically killed my brother because his government said you can't be friends with a soldier. They were best friends. They sang together. They did projects for peace together. It wasn't because he wanted to murder his best friend. Okay? So let's be very clear about that. My little brother basically could not be buried. And I don't talk about this a lot because it affects the woman he was supposed to marry, that they never got married as a result. This woman never married another man to this day for that loss. She loved him that much. We were doing projects for Music and Dance for Peace. We were working. So the government interferes a lot on both sides with people who work for peace. They say, okay, we'll only do it for this one thing. Okay, you're done. Now you can't do it anymore. Now it has to be a law where you can't even interact. You can't even meet somebody. Now, when you start putting policies where you can't meet other people and spend time with them and share, that becomes the wrong choice of a voter. If you're a voter and you see that that stuff is going on with certain government in power, why are you going to vote for that? Why are you going to vote for that? It's very foolish, because the people can be more than one people, can be many peoples for the same cause. And it doesn't have to involve religion. It doesn't have to involve differences of culture or differences of who owns what and who doesn't own what. Okay, it doesn't have to involve that. But the problem is the people do not have the power. This leadership on both sides have the power. This side wants to live very, very well while the people are in poverty. And those people on the other side are blocking those people out, putting where they can't even interact. These people are basically doing what they can to survive and help others, and are not allowed to help others because the other is on the wrong side. So when you have a conflict like that, and you're going to the poll box and you're voting for a coalition, I have a favorite coalition. It's led by Naftali Bennett, and his coalition is Israel Beiteinu, Israel Our Home, which involves the people. It doesn't involve all the money going to security unless there is a life-threatening situation. Every country is going to defend itself in a life-death situation. But the whole money has to go to war? Is that necessary? I'm not going to vote for that. I don't like wars. I don't like having to participate in them. I don't like when any side lies. I think it's very important to accept when somebody says, look, this happened. Mm-hmm. However, some medias, like for instance, there was an incident where photos are being used and they're cropped and they're made to be something they're not. That's not okay, because basically you're saying that this group did this, but they didn't. Somebody else did that. And that is really not good. Because what happens is then people get persecuted for no reason, okay? If you notice the Muslims in America, okay, many of them are here, and many of them enjoy a nice life here, okay? But if you walk by people that are a family and you start insulting them and harassing them just because they're Muslim, because your American government says Muslims are the enemy. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff I don't think is productive.
It's not.
Because half of those people that are saying that those Muslim people are enemies don't even know culture. They don't know the language. They don't speak Arabic.
They're just afraid.
You know, it's like, how do you know? You know? And to me, when people make comments about other people and they don't know anything about who they are, and those people suffer as a result, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think you blame the whole entire population because so-and-so threw rocks at so-and-so when they were a kid. They grew up and then they hated each other all the time. And then the whole rest of both sides of the people have to suffer as a result of that. we discussed this at one time privately. And I explained to you, I don't want to grow up in that. I'm not responsible for that schoolyard fight.
Yeah.
Make up. Find out what the problem, like you said, listen to the other side, learn about the other side, listen to the grievances, talk about it, and work it out. Because in the end, working it out is better than saying, okay, I'm going to kill you and that's it. You did this. You know, ba-boom.
I know this is a weird thing to bring up right now, but that reminds me of this moment. I mean, I watched this movie. I'm kind of changing a little bit of the subject, but I watched this movie. What was it called? It was the Kong Skull Island, like the
King Kong
more
story?
recent King Kong kind of remake sort of thing. Anyway, there was this part, they had a flashback to World War I, I believe, and it was this guy versus this other guy. They both looked really scared, and they're soldiers, and they're on this island or whatever, and then they kind of figure out, wait, why are we fighting though? We don't know each other. Like, maybe we should we're human beings and we should get to know each other, and maybe we should just be friends. And they kind of become, it's kind of beautiful because they kind of become friends. And it was a good scene to see in a big budget movie that I didn't expect at that point. I was kind of like, wow, that was really interesting, Hollywood. Y'all actually did a cute little nice kind of commentary on war and how ridiculous it is that you're fighting a side you don't know anything about in the air, like in a plane, or behind drones now, like in a drone.
This is many governments also that do this to the soldiers that are in these conflict. Innocent people who don't know are forced to say, okay, you have to hate this person, you have to shoot them on sight.
And they're controlled. They're brainwashed into doing their bidding. And then those are the people that people eventually look at and say, oh, they're evil or whatever. They went after these people, they tortured these people, but they don't look at the people who targeted these civilians or whatever, and who told them to do these horrible acts because of their power. Like, they have immense power and they continue to rule. Right. And they get rewarded for it, and the soldiers all pretty much just get screwed in various ways, end up homeless, not getting enough
dead.
care, dying.
Yeah, my little brother died. Okay? But he knew the other side, and the other side knew him. And in Israel, the fortunate thing is that we are educated about not only ourselves, but on all of the different cultures and different peoples and rules and ways of behavior and etiquette, you know? So basically, all I can say is what I'd like to see stop in the medias too is the tendency to say, okay, you have all the weapons, so you're the one that's at fault. You are the ones having help from other countries. You are the one at fault. A lot of the conflicts are not really shared. There are not just one conflict. Okay, people say, okay, they don't want to give up the land, or the land is not theirs. Okay, it's not just that. You're talking about peoples that have been fighting for thousands of years. So if you think that it's only about land, and it's only about who lives here, who it doesn't live here, who it belongs to, who it doesn't belong to, you better get educated, because there are a lot more issues than that. And basically, the important message I want to say about working for peace is, yes, you do need to know the other side. You can't go into battle not knowing the other side, but I don't want to go to battle. I want to know the other side personally because I want to say, what have I not been taught? What really do I really need to learn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I don't care what my side says or their side says. I want to know by meeting the person, experiencing with the person, sharing a meal with them, more than one, singing more songs, dancing with them, and living in coexistence. I grew up that way. I don't want that to change. And now I think when they rebuild my city, which my personal home is, I can't return to, okay? I don't want the policy of my city to change from the time that I grew up, when I experienced living in a coexistence. I don't want some government to say, okay, you can't live this way anymore. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
And it's up to the people who go to the polls, Elle, to make educated decisions for the long term, not just because I'm afraid and I better have this and this is the best thing right now. I mean, how long is this thing going to be the best? A year after year after year after year. We're done. We're tired.
When do they become a dictator?
Yes. I mean, basically, yes, there is corruption among leaders, and it happens all over the world, not just in Israel. It happens in many regimes, many countries.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it right. And one thing is that people hold Israel to a high expectation. It's a lot of pressure on one little country surrounded by other countries that are bigger and also aggressive too. Middle East is an aggressive place, okay? And if you have a culture that is aggressive, it's embedded in your culture, you have to learn another way.
Yeah.
And when you have thousands of years of living a certain way, just like the Hindus aren't going to stop believing in Dharma. Whether or not everybody else says, what, why do you just stand there and let things happen? Okay, no, they're not standing there and letting things happen. They report it. They do investigations. They do go catch the culprits that are breaking the shrines. A religious house of worship, a shrine, or anything, the idea that any weapon or any of that is present is appalling to me. It should not happen. It should not happen ever. A synagogue was hit by rocket fire. Okay? Imagine the response, because the Muslims have a huge, huge, huge population. If a mosque was shot, do we know if any mosques were shot? Has it been reported? Do we know if any more Palestinians and Israelis were killed that were not reported? We don't.
Same with other pockets of the Middle East, like Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't know half of what's going on because the Pentagon, or whoever's in charge, basically, is going to really make it look as if they've done everything right. And they are not going to admit their wrongs.
Right. First step in recovery to a real bad problem is to admit when you made a mistake.
Yes, and that's where we're at as a society, is what I've noticed, is that nobody wants to admit they're wrong, and it leads to more tension with other people. I mean, on the grand scale of like world leaders doing that, and then also on the smaller scale, but still important, on social media, where people will have their biases and will say things that just aren't true. And when given facts to back up the opposite being true, they will just be like, no, you're wrong. And they will never give in. They will never admit. I mean, nobody wants to be wrong anymore. It's like it's a crime to be wrong.
But most of
but
those
you're all
people,
wrong.
Most of those people, to be honest with you, Elle, have not taken the time to be educated
That's true.
And check and make sure that your sources are pieced together that puzzle. Okay, one source is not enough. I can't emphasize this most.
Don't ever go
more.
with one source.
One source you cannot rely upon. All right, one person cannot do all the work.
No.
Got to have two partners working together. And if you don't have two partners working together, then everything gets shot. If you're going to spend all of your time at war and amassing wealth, the population is going to disappear. And you have to be a citizen, and you have to be willing to not accept that. Speak out, be vocal, talk about things as well as listen to things, read things, watch things. Use all of your senses when you are really ascertaining what really is going on.
Think critically, people. That is so needed now in this dystopia that has been created by our own ignorance of the truth. Like, we've been fed lies for so long, and I get it. I used to believe a lot of things that I read, and I just one time I just was like, when my eyes were open, I was just like, not anymore. I can't. Like, more recently, I was going to mention, even though it's not really related, but it is kind of related, is that in terms of veganism, so it's really hard to be a vegan sometimes because there's such a co-opt. Like, they've co-opted veganism to a point where it's gotten very commercial and very silly, and the wrong reasons for going into that kind of plant-based diet. But it's very gotten a neoliberal kind of progressive-ish kind of whitewashing. But the thing is, there was a meat that was on the market, and it actually did really well. Fake meat, obviously. Ignore the background. It's Hollywood, whatever. But that's the world we live in. Anyway, Beyond Meat is the name of this company that had an IPO, and on the first day of trading, it did gangbusters. It was like stocks were through the roof, and people were talking about like what this means for the New York Stock Exchange and like what's going on with that kind of movement towards less animal-based products and that sort of thing. And then I thought, because I've eaten it, I've eaten this product. I didn't know it had an IPO. I was like, when I hear that something's gotten super capitalistic, it doesn't really make me want to eat it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So once I see people like Bill Gates or like Kyrie Irving or whoever, what celebrity you want to get, Leo DiCaprio, his hypocritical ass, like saying we should eat this thing, then I get like a little annoyed because, one, this shit is expensive. It's like $12 per pound, and it's not the same as a burger, but it's very close in terms of nutritional value to a burger. So if you go in thinking you're gonna like eat this burger and it's like it's a veggie burger and you're gonna be fine, no, honey, no, because it's gonna be very close to a beef burger, and the main reason for it existing is for it seems like climate change. Like, what are they doing now? They're doing like protests against.
Sorry.
That's okay. They're doing right now. They're making a big deal out of like we have 12 years to live on this earth or whatever, and we should do something legislatively about climate change, which has never been helpful to us as a society. But let's try something new, I guess. But anyway, it's kind of going into that sort of territory. I've eaten it, and there's an aftertaste that I really don't enjoy. from it, and that I don't remember from eating meat, but I don't remember a lot from eating meat because I haven't eaten meat since like the 90s. So anyway, what I'm getting to is basically it made me not want to eat that burger ever again, to see that it had been co-opted to that point where it's been used for other kind of agendas, climate change agenda.
Yeah, see, this is what this stuff does. It goes like a domino effect, and it does concern me very much that you did not know what was in it and what the effects it has. This is what happens when you don't know, and then things just slip through the cracks.
Yeah, like a restaurant that I go to a lot, that's a vegan restaurant, got this burger, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And the marketing worked. It worked. I paid $18 for a fucking burger. I will say it. Whatever, I did. I couldn't afford it. I did. Several times. I don't know how many hundreds of dollars I've spent on this fucking thing. But never again, because I am not going to be subjected to this propaganda anymore. And it's all marketing. Everything is marketing, like Bill Hicks said, that's what everything is about. It's not about helping society. It's not about, it's not going to help cows to eat this shit. You're not saving any cows. You're not saving land. You're not saving water. You're just eating something different. And they make it out like it's like this big revolutionary thing, and it's not. It's just a piece of fake meat, and you don't need it.
I get it. I totally understand that. I do notice that people have a more plant-based diet are less aggressive, and that people that eat meat primarily of their diet, what I've noticed watching people is that they're more aggressive personality, lose their temper quicker, because the plant basically it's not the need for the meat, the flesh, you know what I mean? And I admire vegans. Of course, my Indian friends always saying, okay, you're going by baby steps. And I say, I know.
You have to. Sometimes.
I don't eat beef, actually.
Yeah.
I actually I prefer fish or chicken as my meat, which they say you still can't have that. You need to have a plant-based diet. And they're right. And I've eaten much more vegetables than I ever used to eat. And I believe a vegan diet has spread in a lot in the Middle East. If you notice, Middle Eastern people eat a lot of more salads with their excuse me, I'm coughing, with their meal. But basically, I admire the vegan strength to stay docile. Herbivorous creatures are basically docile.
Mm-hmm. That's why they're such easy prey. Mm-hmm. You're not going to eat a lion.
No.
Nobody can catch a lion.
No,
they can catch a cow. It's easy. They're just standing there.
Exactly.
They're not going to go anywhere.
And also, if people, there are some people who have tried to eat the meat of a carnivore and have found even the birds, for example, if you eat a bird of prey, they'll say the meat, the food of the bird does not taste good because they're eating blood, they're eating flesh, okay? So basically, the herbivorous creatures are eating plants, and it has a better taste because the plants clean.
Kind of ironic.
Your body. So, I mean, think about it. You know, I mean, definitely, I thank India for my change, because I used to eat too much meat too, because I grew up that way. You know, it's like you have shishlik, you have lulu, you have, you know, lamb and beef and whatever. Once in a while, I notice that if I eat too much meat, that's red meat, I get sick. So it's toxic. The stuff is not good for you. And especially the way it's cooked. You know, when you cook it, you're charring it. That's not always the best way to eat.
A lot of people go raw, and I couldn't do that, but I admire it.
I like raw. I'm a raw person, but I also like my cooked vegetables. The more healthy vegetables, kale is better to eat. Bok choy is very good to have in soup. All different Asian remedies, herbs, things that you drink. It's better to drink, at least in my culture, it's better to drink medicine than to take a pill.
Oh, yeah. I can't even take pills. I don't have the ability to swallow pills. I've never been able to swallow a pill. I don't know why. I think it's just my body rejecting Big Pharma.
I'm one that tells everybody what to do with the medic, but don't do it. Because I'm the worst patient. My doctors will tell you that you didn't do this. Why not? How long is it going to take before you fix this? Okay, you told me 1,000 times. All right.
But sometimes they're just kind of doing their thing to help out with Big Pharma because they're all in their pocket. But yeah,
that's why.
Yeah,
that's why.
Exactly.
That's why I basically stay away. Mm-hmm. I like natural remedies better.
I do too, and I ask for those whenever I'm at the doctor. I ask, hey, what do you think would be a good herb for this ailment? That sort of thing. And they've been pretty good. I mean, it's California, so we live in a nicer, kind of more, hippie dippy doo kind of place than if I were in Georgia or something and I asked that, they'd be like, why are you asking me that? I don't eat herbs. Have a pill. And I'm like, I don't want a pill. But yeah, so it's interesting. And then I just wanted to end with, because we were talking about news media and that sort of thing. A lot of what's happening lately on, say, Twitter and Facebook, maybe more so on Facebook, definitely more so on Facebook right now, is that certain media sources have been stifled for telling their version of the truth. And that's, see, if it was
so
everybody was getting stifled for telling their version of the truth, it'd be one thing, but it's just one specific side. It's kind of okay, what are we doing here? This feels very
you ask yourself,
judgmental.
Why be a journalist?
Yeah.
Why be a journalist if you're taught as a journalist that you have freedom of expression and speech? That you can't have that freedom of expression and speech.
And you can't have different thinking. You can't have dangerous. That's what they label these people as. There's people that are being labeled dangerous for having different ideologies than we have. Than other people have.
Well, they don't know half of the tenets of the ideology that they're claiming. They don't know anything about them. If you ask them, what do you know about that? They'll not be able to answer you.
But a lot of these people I've seen, or for example, Paul Joseph Watson, Alex Jones way before him, that was the first one. And it's just people spouting certain things. And then they come sometimes with some facts to back it up, because that's
Everybody
what they
comes
do,
with facts. They do.
They have to do that. They can't just be rambling about certain things and not ever be followed.
Right.
They're going to get a following from the facts that they spew about certain things to build a narrative. That's what journalism is nowadays. But, Paul Joseph Watson, Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan, just people who have been outspoken on the internet, and the internet's no more. Mark Zuckerberg's no, whoever's puppeteering Mark Zuckerberg right now is no, we can't have dissenting voices, we can't have anti-war voices, we can't have people who are spouting lies about the government, even though they have facts to back him up, and have their own narratives about Muslims or this and that and the other, but they have actual data as well. So
one
they're
person's
dangerous.
truth is another person's lie.
Exactly.
And that's what people have to understand. That's why we're emphasizing, and I really appreciate, you speaking about this topic, because we have to be educated, and we can't just be like sheep.
Exactly.
We have to really, really be educated and do our research and ascertain facts from fiction, not just based on one source.
Right. And what was I going to say? We're sheep being led to the slaughter. We're eventually, it's going to be us who's silenced. The people who don't speak out will eventually be silenced themselves. So speaking out for one person whom you vehemently disagree with on almost everything, and you're allowed to do that as a society. We should be allowed to disagree with each other and still respect each other's right to speak,
Agreed.
to be heard,
Agreed.
to have a following. I may not agree with everything Kim Kardashian says or whatever, but she has the right to build her following and to get her money however she wants to get it, and get her attention however she wants to get it. I wouldn't disassemble her whole social media landscape and be like, no, you don't get to talk. And if that happened, people would be pissed off. But if it's someone like Alex Jones, or somebody, with a little more reach politically, then, it's going to be a different thing.
You live and let live, Elle, and that's what's important. You live and let live. You do respect the opinions of other people, and you do listen. But you also respect your own opinion, and that's only right. Every person has their right.
And if you're so sure you're right, certain you're right, 100%, then it shouldn't matter what the other person says.
Right.
Back to you.
Right.
You should be able to come back at them, rebut their argument with your own argument, counter-argument, and that's a debate.
Right.
We don't have enough debate. We don't have dialogue. We have people shutting people down. You're canceled. You can't say anything because you did this back in the day.
The censorship is really out of control. That is very out of control.
That's how it starts. They start it with us going after each other, and then eventually we'll be silenced. No, they're like, wait a minute, what was happening? Wait, when did this become a fascist society? You made it a fascist society by not speaking up and letting people be silenced and rewarding people for doing that. And cheering that on. That's insane to me that people are cheering that kind of thing on just because it's online or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's still a public space where you're supposed to exchange ideas. Mm-hmm. And if all ideas are not exchanged, or one idea is not exchanged because it's too dangerous to the other ideas, then that's not going to be a helpful platform. And eventually it will be disrupted and it will be dismantled because people will not stand for that once it comes to their door. And they have to have it come to their door. They have to be told, okay, we're going to take you away right now. Do you have your papers? What? Uh-huh. But that's how it's going to be. It's going to be like, you can't go on a flight because you did this in 1967, and, we think that you're not ready to be introduced into society as a valuable member. Like that episode of Black Mirror, which is also happening in China right now with the social credit score system, where people are being banned from flying due to their behavior not being
and the cost to fly, just imagine, we're also forced not to meet each other because the cost for flying from one country to another, thousands of dollars. Does the fuel really cost that much? Come on. I mean, think about it.
That is a good point.
And I need to tell you, that's why, I would be traveling a lot more. And it's like, even to go within your own United States, you can't travel from LA to Chicago or LA to New York, wherever you want to go. Come on.
And then they have the facial recognition software you have to get past, and you're like, I want to opt out of that, bitch. So then they're going to they want to digitize everyone. They want everybody to be robots. But we need to...
You feel like Logan's Run over here. You know that movie, Logan's Run?
Yeah. We need to rebel. This is the rebellion stage. Please, everybody rebel. And thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful podcast episode. I hope we left with a little bit of levity at the end. But
You're very welcome.
do you
ma'am.
have any events coming up that you want to promote, perhaps? Any kind of gigs or what have you? She is a musician, guys.
Yes, I am a musician. I don't have anything. My season is a little bit slow right now, but I will definitely let Elle know in my future. I need to take a rest, a little bit of reprieve, because I'm a little bit under the weather, as you probably can hear. But thank you, Elle. This has been a great experience. You are really an outstanding hostess, and I do appreciate that.
You're an outstanding guest, and I thank you so much for your expertise. And I really hope that things get better and people start listening to each other and working through everything, because we're just not going to go anywhere until that happens. We're just going to stay stagnant, and that's not helping society at all. So, thank you again, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. It'll be more fun, I promise. Bye.